In 1776, the Second Continental Congress of the 13 United States of America declared, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." In 1791, the United States of America adopted the Bill of Rights, which among other things, affirmed the American citizens' freedom of speech, the press, and the right of the people to peacefully assemble. The ability to speak openly without censure or fear of reprisal is a hallmark of free peoples everywhere, and the freedom of press is critical to sustaining democracy and the rule of law and enabling people to remain free from state and, in some cases, non-state control or oppression. Journalists provide needed accountability for governments by challenging conventional thinking, reporting on different and often opposing viewpoints, and offering people information that informs their understanding of the issues. Unfortunately, in our hemisphere, a trend of conditioning and even curtailing press freedoms in several countries is deeply disturbing. From severe government repression and outright targeting by journalists by Cuba, Venezuela, and Ecuador to organized crime, corruption, and impunity in other countries in Latin America, journalists have very difficult jobs, often risking their very lives and their loved ones to bring information and the truth to their fellow citizens. Although the purpose of this hearing is to highlight some of the more concerning trends of threats to press freedoms in the Americas, I do want to note that there are some bright spots in the region, with Canada and most of the Caribbean having relatively open media environments in comparison to other countries in the region. In recent years, several international press rights monitoring organizations have expressed growing concerns about the deterioration of press freedoms in Latin America. Groups like Freedom House, Reporters Without Borders, the Committee to Protect Journalists, and the Inter-American Press Association all report on threats to freedom of the press in the Western Hemisphere, and we are fortunate to have key experts from some of these groups represented here today to testify about their work. I also want to commend the efforts of the Organization of American States, Special Rapporteur for Freedom of Expression, who has done some important work on threats to freedom of the press through highlighting progress and problems within specific countries in the Americas through comprehensive annual reports. These reports are excellent tools for providing transparency and accountability to countries in the region. In addition, I also want to congratulate the Special Rapporteur for his efforts to bring to public awareness the issue of government surveillance programs that have threatened journalists' rights of privacy and freedom of expression. According to Reporters Without Borders' 2015 World Press Freedom Index, only 3 countries in the Western Hemisphere managed to score in the top 20 of 180 countries documented: Canada, Jamaica, and Costa Rica. Notoriously, Mexico and Cuba were among the worst offenders of the Western Hemisphere listed in that report. When it comes to violence against the media, Mexico exists as one of the most dangerous countries for media, with journalists often receiving extortion and kidnapping threats from government officials, criminal groups, and other transnational gangs. In fact, Mexico accounts for more than a third of all the killing of media workers and journalists in the hemisphere since 2009. In addition, Cuba ranks worst in the region according to Freedom House and among the 10 most censored countries in the world according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Furthermore, Cuba and Venezuela have been singled out frequently and consistently for having repressive media environments and for often violently targeting peaceful protesters and political dissidents. In these countries, independent journalists and bloggers are often subject to government-sanctioned harassment and detention. Just last year, we saw Venezuelan security forces opening fire on journalists during the student demonstrations that ultimately turned deadly. These conditions have led to more than 400 Venezuelan journalists living in exile today. In addition to these countries, Ecuador, Honduras, and Peru all received their worst press freedom scores in over a decade from Freedom House. A controversial 2013 communication law in Ecuador has led to a chilling environment, self-censorship, and intimidation for press organizations. Honduras passed a new secrecy law and has limited critical reporting of the government. Peru has seen an increase in threats against journalists and ongoing impunity and the lack of willingness to address past crimes against journalists. Moreover, Brazil has seen at least 16 journalists killed in direct response for their work since President Rousseff took office in January of 2011. In Nicaragua, complete state control over the media has occurred through a monopoly, with the single exception of one single independent television channel. Other concerns about general deterioration of press freedoms in Latin America include the governmental abuse of libel and defamation laws, a general lack of support for the protection of journalists, reporters, and media workers, and in some places an outright attempt to eliminate an independent media altogether. So in conclusion, threats to the press freedoms in the Americas are ongoing and increasing. Abraham Lincoln once stated that, quote, "No man is good enough to govern another man without that other's consent," unquote. Today in the Western Hemisphere, there are some people who are seeking to do just that: control populations, prevent freedom of thought and expression, and eliminate avenues for questioning state control by silencing the voices of those who are most able to speak truth to power. Our witnesses today are uniquely positioned to share their research and personal experiences in various countries of oppression, and I look forward to considering how the U.S. can better engage in the region more effectively, partner with other countries to promote the freedom of the press.